Welcome to the HVAC Financial Freedom Podcast, a show to help you create more revenue, profit, and freedom in your life. Now your host, John Victoria.
Hello and welcome everyone to the HVAC Financial Freedom Podcast. I am your host, John Victoria, and I am very excited about the podcast we have lined up for you today. Our upcoming guest is a traveling sales coach who builds high-performance sales teams for growth-minded HVAC business owners. And I'm really excited because some of the stories that he shared with me of how fast some of the companies he's worked with and really scaled past that seven-figure mark and beyond, it's absolutely incredible, and he'll have a lot to share with you all. But it's not just the top line revenue growth. It's everything that comes with it, right? We all know the struggles of starting and launching and trying to scale a business. And sometimes we can get stuck in that place where we're in that limbo of not getting to the place where we want to go. But imagine you could build that life where you're taking the vacations that you want. You're able to build the team that you absolutely love being around, being able to give back to the community and really build a legacy. This is what we're going to be talking about today, the pathway to get there. And our guest, Michael Cady, will be talking us the path on how to do that. So welcome on board. How's it going, Michael?
Good, John. John, thanks for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. So excited to have you. So, just to kick things off for those that don't know you, I know you have a strong background in sales and all the things you've done. We'd love a quick briefer on like your background and some of the things you've been working on.
Sure. Well, I'm in my 50s now, so I've been around a little bit. I kind of started off as a career in the engineering side of the world, kind of the opposite of sales. But I found in-home sales, a while back, and really just the skill sets that I learned in those fields, whether it's the way you sell roofing, windows, siding, kitchens, etc. I've had success taking those proven formulas and applying them to HVAC.
Love that. Absolutely love that. And also before we really hop into things as well, fun fact about Michael, he was in radio for, was it 8 years, right?
Oh man, gosh, it's a flashback. Yeah, I did about 8 years. I had a weekly 1 hour show, it was, mostly technology related, kind of goofy. But we didn't have this video screen nonsense, which is really making me sweat, John.
Hey man, love to keep our guests on their feet. But you have a radio voice, man. So absolutely love it.
Well, and some of it's left, I guess. We'll see.
Love it. And so you transitioned from in-home sales, and so now you're a traveling sales consultant. You work with a number of HVAC companies all around the country. I guess how did that transition happen from doing in-home sales to what you're doing now?
Well, I just had the opportunity several years back. There was actually a consultant that had hired me to help a company that needed a boost. They had been flat for many years, it was just very minimal growth. And the consultant hired me, and I came in, and I didn't really at that time. God, I wish I knew. I could have saved so much trouble if I'd known about organizations like EGIA and Praxis S10 in Florida. Oh, they could have saved me. I didn't know about that stuff, and so I spent a while trying to translate what I learned in in-home sales to HVAC, which is, it's another kettle of fish, right? But it took a little bit, and the traction started moving, and then we had just, phenomenal amount of success there. And I really enjoyed working with the company when they were really small, when it really made a difference day to day in how that extra revenue allowed them to treat customers better, treat employees better, to invest even in more growth. So at this point, really looking to work more with smaller family-run businesses that maybe don't have a lot of sales and marketing experience, that want to grow, want to work less hours. And it all comes down to money, right?
Yeah. No, and I mean, as well, I have a similar heart for the same types of companies. A lot of our listeners are contractors who are underneath that 3 million in revenue mark. Some of them might be just getting started out. Some of them might be at that, 500,000 mark, and they're really looking to grow and to scale. And they use this podcast as a great resource for them.
Right.
And so, I know some of the things you mentioned before, like some of their experience could be, they're working 60, 70 hours a week,
Oh,
putting out fires, just having trouble growing.
It's
Could you speak
brutal.
more
I've
into?
been in those shoes before, John, and when you're first getting a business going, and like I think most of us really, I came from the IT world, and I worked in that for a bit, and when I got into business, then I realized I had to learn my business and marketing and selling, and it was initially really a kind of a punch in the face. And I think most of the companies I've talked to, they come into it with passion, being more technical, having done an installation or maybe service, and then all of a sudden they're a business owner. And then
Mhm.
yourself, the incredible amount of hats you have to wear, that you end up doing less and less of what your passion was. And it's all new to you if you haven't had the experience. So I think that's kind of my mission, is to help those folks bridge that gap as quickly and painlessly as possible.
Mhm. Love that. It's wearing that technician hat initially because you have this passion, you have this expertise, but then how do we now? It's a different skill set to put on the business owner hat to be able to read a P&L, to do your projections, to
Yeah.
really run and lead a sales department. These are skills that might not have been there like when first starting the business. You're
Well,
saying.
and I think they're rare to have those skills in one human. Most successful companies on earth, there's usually, some form of a technical person or a nerd and some form of a salesperson. So it really gets the marketplace. And it's that combination that allows you to grow really quickly, because I haven't met too many people that are gifted at both, personally. The last thing you want me to do is try to fix your air conditioner.
Yeah, I love
But
that. That's
it's
challenging.
not that difficult, frankly. It's just, you need to get the right people in place. And I understand that smaller companies, Uh, it's you just get beat up so bad. I know when you're first coming into the marketplace, when there's people trying to sell you this, that, and the other forms of advertising and SEO and marketing, and it's overwhelming, and you get excited so many times that you're going to have some growth and these promises that you hear, and then you fall on your face and you get disillusioned, you get distrustful. All the pitches start to sound the same. You don't know who's better, who's really going to perform, who's going to do good work for you, and who's just going to take your money as fast as they can and leave you flat. So I really empathize with that. And it's really one of the reasons that when me and my wife put our business model together, we decided that there's no point in putting them through that. And if we could eliminate most, if not all of that risk, and enjoy, I don't know, maybe it sounds a little hippie, but enjoy winning together, celebrate winning together. And that's how we built the company so far, is to be performance driven, and take that fear away from the business owner.
I love that. Yeah, and I remember you mentioned as well, like for the companies you work with, there's nothing really even paid up front, which I thought was, just mind boggling, right? Because it's all
Something
performance.
kind of new for us, but we figured, we've got skin in the game, being a little bit newer to the consulting world. Kind of show people what's up before they pay us. And so far, the response has been overwhelming, and we're just thrilled, and we're eager to just help as many people as we can. And I think you touched on it earlier, but it's, money's part of it, but it's so much more about freedom, right? About being able to run your company the way you want it to be run, be able to hire and lift people to give back to the community. It's not a money grab. It's really about doing things the right way. And I don't know, maybe even smiling once in a while at your work. Maybe enjoying talking about what you do. Maybe sleeping well at night, and not having to work yourself to death. 60 hours a week.
That's the dream. I mean, when we all start that business, we don't dream of working ourselves to the bone. That's not the dream when we first launched the business, and I imagine most folks don't feel that way.
It's the
Um,
reality, though, right? At least
it's the
that
reality.
initial that year or two when you first get going, it's well, that's probably why most people don't make it.
Now, one thing I am curious about though is because you've worked and seen so many different companies. There's companies that are able to successfully break through, and some do it in very short order. And then there's other companies that are not able to make that breakthrough even after 5, 10, 15, 20 years.
Right.
I know some people must be scratching their head like, I don't think they're any smarter than me or this or that. So I'm curious, like from your perspective, like what separates, like why are those companies breaking through, and then why are some other people not? Like what separates? Like what's the difference? You'd say, is it luck or is it or something else?
No, there's a very simple word for it. It's processes or systems. And, for me, I'm fortunate enough that I've been involved with enough organizations, small, big, and corporate, that do a similar type of, in-home selling technique, that I've seen all the little pieces in play, because it's not that straightforward, frankly. It really requires so many, individual things to come into play together to really be able to scale quickly in that. You can use some sales process coaching and sales training and get your numbers up and grow pretty fast. But to really just bust ahead, it takes the messaging and the branding and endorsements and strategic alliances and relentless training. And really, I think that the biggest thing is, for a smaller company, you just don't have the resources, right? And when you don't have the resources, you really need to be able to fine tune the sales process and the systems you use for marketing, specifically to enhance the strengths of the business, and to downplay the weaknesses, which are many in the new business. And there's lots of formulas and lots of books and lots of templates, and they're all very logical and they make good sense and they're all correct. But it's really hard for a smaller business that's just kind of making that first push to be able to do all those things at once and have the resources and the time to do all those things at once. So it's trying to navigate that quickest path, again, based on that particular company's strengths, to get that momentum moving forward. And then aligning with the branding and the marketing and the messaging and the offers and the community outreach and all these other things that over a period of a few months this momentum starts to happen. And that's what I've seen, is that you can really move the needle. I'd say probably about 3 months, maybe 4 months. The company can see something really magical start to happen. And then within 6 months, you just, well, excuse the HVAC pun, but you're cooking with gas after you really get your legs underneath of you. And if those processes are repeatable, then you can really start to grow quickly, because I think technicians in general, just the way their heart is they want perfection. They take great pride in how they install things, how they repair things. They want it done exactly, precisely right. And the thing is, with marketing and selling and that scaling, it's not that precise. It's much sloppier. It's much dirtier. There's a lot more imprecision. And it's hard, I think, for guys to trust that if they haven't seen it done before. And that's my advantage, is I've seen, oh my gosh, just a dozen companies go from this big to tens of millions a year. And I've seen that process. I've seen how long it takes. So a good analogy, we talked about this the other day, is, going to the gym, right? Yeah, it takes some investment there. It's not just you're going to the gym one time and you're looking great and you're happy and healthy and looking sharp in the mirror. It takes that work and relentless amount of work and dedication for weeks, months, or longer, before finally that effect starts to emerge. So I can imagine how terrifying it is for a smaller business to invest that much time, effort, and money building, this type of a system, and not really knowing for sure if it's going to work or not. It's who's going to do that on their own? Who's going to put all that effort in and know that it's that day is coming if you haven't done it before? Which reps do I do? Which weights do I lift? How many reps is it? I don't know. I'm just kind of winging it. And is it ever going to show? So having a trainer or a guide to take you down that path to eliminate most of that risk for you. Still, you got to, most guys, usually it takes a certain amount of pain prior to be able to dedicate yourself to that, the kind of work required for those few months to make something really magical happen.
Of that. So kind of what I'm taking from you, it's not hard. Hard work is important and necessary, but it's also the right work.
It's smart work. It's absolutely smart work.
Smart
more hours, as most business owners realize at some point, you get into this trap that you work more and more and more hours and give up more of your life. And where does it get you? you're constantly kind of, again, I've been in the shoes. You're fighting and it doesn't feel like you're making as much progress as you should. And whenever you try to take your hand kind of off the wheel, the car instantly veers for the ditch,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
And they try to back up, try to put people in, and the car veer. So the systems and processes, I think it's something I learned and was reminded of recently by Weldon Long, one of my heroes, is that you have to scale, you have to do things in such a simple way, such a measurable, simple way that average people can do it,
Mm,
right? Because just hiring the right guy and thinking he's going to run things for you well, or what we talked about earlier, what was it, the sales ninja, right? That this
mhm,
magical, mythical creature
yeah.
exists and is going to come in and blow up your numbers and make you rich. Well, that guy, first off, he don't need you. You probably can't afford him. And if you did bring that guy in and finally found him and he boosted you up to a certain level, you got all these new employees, and then for some reason he bails. Well, you just put 10 people out of work, so that's not real scalable. It's dumbing down systems, dumbing down processes. Yeah, they're a little bit sloppy. They're not technically perfect, but they're repeatable. And that goes for how you hire people, how you train people, what you say in the house, what sets you apart from your competition as far as your product offering and how you bundle things together. All of those things need to be easily repeatable.
Yeah. Repeatable, documented, trained, like you said, so there's consistency and not dependent on a key man. Like, so you're saying if someone leaves, like I mean, yeah, they're nice while you have them, but things change, right? Maybe that
Well,
person starts a family, maybe that person gets hit by a
yeah.
bus, maybe who knows? And you don't want
Yeah.
something
Are they
that
get tired of
dependent
working for you? And they're like, well, I'm doing all this. I'll just do it for myself.
yourself.
I know in my own experience, having several businesses, that one of the things is that you get trapped. And every time I tried to pull away from that trap and give myself, more time, um, things would crash. And it's obvious that you can't find someone that's going to care as much as you do about your business and your family and the community. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
But if you have clear enough, simple enough systems, processes, measurements, if you can't measure something, you certainly can't, keep an eye on it or fix it. And sometimes it's really difficult to figure out how to do that, how to do it simply. But again, once you got all this groundwork in play, it takes a few months to get all this kind of stuff, really dialed in. It becomes repeatable and it gets easier and easier and easier.
So I guess if we were to walk through a process, so let's say someone is sitting down, they're thinking, okay, I want to scale in that big way over the next 90 days. I have to figure out what processes do I need to work on? Like, how would you advise them to begin thinking about, which would be the key levers that would move the needle in their business? Like, how would someone even begin to approach that?
Well, it's really so specific to each company, but if we talk in really general, vague terms, say companies maybe pushing at 1 million, 2 million. First thing, they need foundation first. And I can't say enough good things about organizations like EJA or Praxis. That is really, because you've got to get your book straight. You've got to get your systems. You got to answer the phone a certain way. There's so many little things that matter so much when every lead, every opportunity is so precious to you at that size that you can't afford to debauch a single opportunity. So you need the foundation first. But what I bring to the table and what I think some people can do on their own, or at least with help, is that you've got to first establish a very clear way of standing out in the marketplace. To be able to attract leads, if you're going to spend $1 on marketing, do you want to have a message or a logo or a name or a phone number that's just as average and boring, as simple as everybody else out there?
Mm.
If I'm going to spend $1 on marketing, don't I want to almost shock people? Don't I want them to go, what did you just say? Don't I want them to talk about it? So you have to start with a brand or a message. You need to invest in that and really come up with something unique, whether it's based on, female ownership or military vets, or the fact that every vehicle you drive is purple. There's got to be something first that's memorable. And then you got to go out to the marketplace and create a process to reliably get opportunities, right? That's
Mm.
the biggest thing I've seen in HVAC. It's a problem is reliably and affordably getting opportunities or leads. That's fine if you're an established company and you're trying to make that switch from fixing things and turning them over into the sales realm. That's a good thing if you've got that luxury. But if you're a newer company, you've got to figure out how to find customers first. And marketed leads, as there's enough horror stories out there about things like Angie's List and Thumbtack and people fighting over leads, and they're incredibly difficult to manage if you don't have a good message, a good offer, a good way of answering the phone, a good way of contacting and getting those appointments set properly. You know, all of those little tiny things have to align to squeeze every penny out of what you're spending on leads. And then you can afford to spend, more money on leads once you figure that out. Once you can reliably track the amount of money you spend on an opportunity, knowing for a fact what that is going to produce for you in revenue. Once you've got that formula tuned in and the numbers where they need to be, then you can crank that marketing knob as hard and fast as you can possibly keep up with the capacity. And that's really all there is to it. I mean, it's not that easy. I don't mean to oversimplify it, but it's really just finding a customer, creating that a good opportunity for the salesperson, and then having that salesperson be able to reliably turn that into money while keeping the customer happy and producing top line, results and really good profit levels. That's it's so different for every company. Some of the basics are the same, but to really find that advantage, you've got to dig deep into an individual company and their personality and what their goals are and what makes them special.
That makes a lot of sense. So just to echo back, it sounds like first get the fundamentals set. So you got EGIA or Praxis as an organization.
And there's other ones out there. I think there's a lot of other guys out there that are good and established folks, but those are really good organizations, who's also affiliated with Praxis. I stand Jimmy Hiller. He does tours and things like that. Really can inspire you when you're starting out to see how much potential there really is. So it's, the thing is that those organizations give you so many materials that you don't have to wing so much stuff on your own. And they give you ways to measure things and spreadsheets, and they tell you what matters at first. When you're getting started, what KPIs matter today. And then when you get to that level, then where do we need to look next and where can we fine tune things? But I think it's important you have a foundation like that. And those organizations also provide training materials for your staff. So you have training materials for the people that answer the phone, for the technicians, for the installers, for the sales team, for the bookkeeper. It's all there. And you can use those tools to train your entire staff for really pennies on the dollar compared to anything else that's out there. Me personally, I like to think that I'm there for after that phase, for when people they've got the basics in place, they're ready to grow quickly, they've got their books straight, they kind of know how to run a business in general first, and at that point is when the perfect world, that's where I like to step in.
Got it. And you mentioned branding and positioning as one of the starts, then the lead acquisition process, then getting the sales process in place. And then from there, it just builds, right? If you have that, sales lead generation system in place, I could imagine you could scale pretty quickly over
Absolutely.
a few months.
This all has to do with capacity though. So, it's a real problem. If a smaller company does not, if I'm my team and some of their team over there is trying to build the sales and marketing side. And if for whatever reason, they're not doing the same thing with the technical side. In other words, they're not investing the relentless, amount of training required to do things really well the first time, prevent go backs and mistakes and keep customers happy. If they're not building that infrastructure to keep up with the sales, then it's a real problem. So, and that's not my forte. That's something that things like, me personally, at least, there's a lot of coaches out there that kind of handle the whole process from, how to train installers, how to train, office staff. I'm really hyper-focused on marketing and selling. I would recommend a business owner to use something like, again, EGIA, Praxis, or another organization like that to help them scale the get the work done, to get the work done right, and to be able to attract and find the talent to do that work. That's a whole nother selling challenge in of itself, is being able to bring in top talent. And I tell you that the shortest path to that, the lowest hanging fruit is usually money and opportunity. And what remarkable level of revenue can do is give a company the resources to put the people in place and to invest in training, pay people more than their competition, and give them more. I mean, slather them with benefits. Let them work 4 days a week. Let them get more money than anyone else in the industry. You know, champion them. The folks that earn it, champion them, and make your place where people want to go, where they want to work. Takes a little time, but man, I tell you, I remember that's one of the toughest things in the business is trying to find reliable people. And I think the only way you have a chance of scaling, getting the work done is to be a place that people are really like clamoring to work for.
So I see there's like competing things where you can build this sales and marketing engine, but you need the ability to fulfill in all that work. But to fulfill in all that work, you need the training. Plus, you need the culture of being able to attract good people who are willing to stay in order to maintain like a steady, path upwards.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the quality of work might not be at a high enough level. You start getting bad Google reviews,
Well,
and
yeah, as a salesperson, the worst thing ever you can do is, spend all that time, you're 2, 3 hours in the house, you're bonding with people, you're solving problems, you're connecting. And if that person has a bad experience, that doesn't feel good.
yeah.
It's really important that that person has a tremendous experience. And then of course, there's a whole nother level of, referrals that come from that as well. But yeah, there's a lot of pieces of the puzzle. The thing is that it's just not that big of a deal. Again, I've seen it happen at so many companies. For a company to go from, I don't know what size, $100,000 a month, maybe, in sales revenue for residential replacements, mostly from marketed leads, not from turnovers. Maybe some of them are turnovers. To go from that level of revenue and to go to say four or $500,000 a month, it's absolute plausible. There's not very much difficult with that. Now, when you want to go to 1 million a month and 2 million a month and 3 million a month, that gets more and more challenging. But just going from 100,000 to 500,000, that's pretty easy to do with some good system.
Mm. And what's that cross? So what's the crossover point? So 500 a month, that's what, 6 million a year. What's the difference past the 6 million mark that makes it more challenging? Like what challenges would someone face?
It's just that those processes we talked about earlier, that they need to be really simple and repeatable and dumbed down. At that point, what I feel is after about five or so, um, that stuff gets more and more complicated. It gets more and more corporate. It gets to be more and more layered. Um, in my opinion, it's not as fun. It
Mm,
gets to be a little bit over the top regimen, and things get, well, a lot of people say when companies get past a certain size, they kind of lose their soul, right?
mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that's 5 million. For some companies, that might be 10. For some, it might be 20. But at some point, the money seems to take over. And yeah, I'm not a big fan of that. I really like working with the smaller family businesses that want to make enough money just to be comfortable, to give back to the community, to lift people up, and have some time to enjoy their life.
Yeah.
That's what I like doing.
Love it. And it happened in such quick order from what you're saying too. It's,
I,
it's,
again, it's not me, man. I'm stealing stuff that I've seen done at other companies. My only trick was applying some of that stuff to HVAC. Again, I wish I'd known about some of those other organizations before. I had to figure a lot of that stuff out on my own, but um, it's all been done before. I've seen it done so many times. And I've seen it work almost every time that to me, it's not risky, and though I get that a business owner, that leap from 100 to 500, having that faith to go to the gym every day and not seeing anything happen for a while. Yeah, it's nerve wracking. It's nerve wracking. Yeah. I think there's you know, you've had other success stories on this podcast,
Mhm.
and there's enough stories on the internet now that I think that people are getting inspired and realizing that you don't have to be, rocket scientists to make this stuff work. This isn't for some elite group of brainiacs that crack some magical business mystery. This is pretty straightforward, simple stuff. You just have to do the work and track things and measure things and put systems in place. It's just not that difficult.
Love that. And I'd love to transition. So, in the next few months, we're moving into the shoulder season in many parts of the country.
Yeah. Oh
And,
God.
yeah, so, so let's couple that with, there's been, talks in the industry of how leads are being more discerning. They're not turning into business as easily. People are tighter with their wallets. Could you speak to some of these like macro trends and how an owner should be thinking about it as we're moving into the shoulder season?
Well, I definitely get some flack for this, but I don't believe in the shoulders season. I think it's actually kind of a joke. I think it's a sellout. In all the industries I've worked in, whether it's roofing, siding, there's no, there's no shoulder season. There's continual growth month over month over month, period. If not, you're not doing something right. There's strategies and systems that you can learn from a lot of places that will teach you how to take advantage of shoulder season, how to stand out, how to help customers win, that they're saving a little extra by doing something when it's not hot or cold. That you can organize yourself enough that you're doing all of your maintenance calls in those times. There's so many little techniques you can use to stay consistent because, man, the worst thing ever. Can you imagine the amount of work and training it takes, relentless level of training it takes to really build sales teams and install teams and service teams that are good. Can you imagine losing some of those guys? Because it's a little slow? Are you kidding me? That's a really dumb thing to let happen. Now, if you use that every year to kind of cull the weak and maybe to open up opportunities to hire some new people for the following season, that's one way of doing business. But to me, I say you get your hands on people and you're putting that much love and time and effort into them. You better do something to keep their pay stable year round.
And so from what I just got from you, it sounds like pushing. I think one thing you mentioned before was, let's say it's the summer, maybe, their unit, it's not like completely broken. Like they can wait a little bit. You can push that timeline forward. Like what are some other examples?
There's several ways to do it. One is, of course, people like to save money, right? Everybody does. Everybody likes when there's a sale at, whatever store. One is your messaging, be able to reach out to customers and say, hey, it's not hot right now, but that's the time to buy. The other one is when you sell. One of the techniques that I've used that's been really successful, this is something that I think most people take away from this, if they're not doing it already, is at the point of sale, when you're getting ready to do the paperwork, you want to ask your customer, Mr. Customer, hey, if, we've got a lot of people they're eager to get this stuff installed. If you might be willing to wait, I don't know, 30, maybe 90 days to get this installed, I could pass some additional savings on to you in the form of a gift card today or something else. You'd be surprised how many people will wait, especially if it's not right in the peak of hot or cold, or maybe the system's still kind of hanging in there. Maybe you've got a window air conditioner. It depends on what market you're in and how desperate they are. But you got to set yourself up for success there and do those installations, later, so you're not burdening your workforce and going from needing 10 trucks to only needing 5 trucks. Ridiculous. There's just poor planning. But there's about 5 ways to attack and stay stable. But that's really important, not to just accept that as fact that, oh, well, I guess it's just the shoulder season. I guess we're just going to suck for a while. That's unfortunate that people think that way.
And how about a maintenance program? So, I've spoken with a few newer contractors, like, we don't have too many maintenance contracts. We'd love to step it up to help with the shoulder season. Like, how would you advise someone who's looking to build more of that in their company?
That would not be a specialty of mine. I believe in maintenance agreements very much. I think they're super important. On every sale, I would always include one for at least the first year, so that you can kind of lock them in and get them ready to pay for the next year. But it's really important for a service department, in my opinion, to get as many of those as possible, because it's that cash flow. It's having that steady money coming, whether if they're paying monthly or just having that customer committed to you. It's not a real loyal business, John. and people tend to flip and flop for, this or that, which can be an advantage and a curse. But if you've got them in a decent maintenance agreement where they're getting some extra additional benefits, like maybe emergency service or some special pricing or opportunity, quicker installation, quicker service, that provides a real benefit to the consumer, and it really kind of bonds them to you. So I'm a big believer in those maintenance agreements, and they should be selling those things like hotcakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
And
is
then
actually
especially scheduling smart and only doing those and up front, setting the expectation properly with the customer to only do those in the slow seasons. And that's why you're giving them a special price on it today or whatever it is. They got to feel like they win, right?
Yep, 100%.
Yeah.
Mm. Love that. Anything else? Other strategies that someone could be thinking about for slow season and the hype,
Well,
the mythical, right? Not the actual.
I say just don't accept that it's real. Don't
Yeah.
allow yourself off the hook. Cross selling is really good. Some companies have the ability to sell, water heaters and generators, electrical jobs, things like that to their existing customer base, which can keep your team most of your team busy. But I think you can do most of it just by proper planning and really just letting the customer make a choice to save a couple of extra bucks to put off installation for a couple, 3 months if they can bear that. That's probably the easiest way to do it.
Got it. Love that. Awesome. And so I'd love to transition to now mindset. You've spoken about, having a relentless mindset, in previous conversations, we've spoken about, the importance of what you think and really also with the shoulder season, right? Not even believing it, not buying into it.
Right.
It's like, so what are some other things with mindset that we could talk about that would be helpful
Oh
for
man, that's
a
going to take
growing
about
contract?
25 podcasts there, John, to do that. But, I mean, I think, the person again, that really distilled it down to the most simple concept for me is Weldon. You know, um, it's just, you don't overthink things. The things that you think, what you think, whether it's right or wrong, by the way, whether it's right or wrong, what you think is going to directly influence how you feel, and what you feel is going to predict what your actions will be, and that's going to determine the results you get. And then those results reinforce the thinking, and it starts over and over. But it definitely starts with thoughts, and you definitely have control over your thoughts. Not always everything else, but absolutely only you have control over your thoughts. So if you fix your mindset first, then the feelings and emotions follow, the actions and deeds follow, and the results follow. I'll give you a really simple example, and I don't know, it depends on who's tuning in here, but I've asked this question, and I forgot who I heard this from, but you just ask, people in the industry, technicians, owners, even salespeople themselves. John, what's the first 3 or 4 words that come to your mind when you hear the word salesman? What's the
Salesman.
first thing you hear? You hear the word salesman. What word jumps to your mind immediately?
I had in my head, I had car salesman. So I imagine
That's a
the
guy in a khaki suit, right?
yeah,
It's
yeah,
trying to swindle you, right? And not a real positive image.
yeah,
And if most people are honest, I think that's how they look at it. And it took me a while to get over that myself. I was almost embarrassed early on in my career to tell people that I did sales. But then I learned that you can sell with integrity, and you can sell for the greater good. You can build families and companies and communities. And you can also sell products that you believe in and sell them to people that need them, and not oversell, not, trip people up into things they don't really need to buy. So you can sell with integrity, but that's gotta be here first. I mean, if you don't believe that and think that, you're not going to feel it. You're not going to act like it. And people are going to treat you like a scummy salesman if that's what you think you are. And that applies to so many things like shoulder season. It all comes with where your mind's at, and listening to podcasts like this. And, there's a lot of folks on the internet, not just HVAC, by the way. One Facebook page I can tune you into, it's remarkable, is In-Home Sales Professionals. The name of it is In-Home Sales Professionals. And those guys are 100% spot on. You get so much insight there's at least 10 contributors on that page that are just remarkable thinkers that really understand the industry. And you can apply, whether they're in roofing or siding or whatever, you can apply those principles to HVAC. That's a real advantage. HVAC has come a long way in the last few years in that selling mindset, but they're not where companies like, Sears and, Renewal by Anderson and Pella and these companies have been doing these things for 30 or 40 years. And they've really gotten in-home sales down to an absolute science. And there's still room for the HVAC world to grow. There's room for it to get better and better. The key is finding techniques and nuggets that work well for your particular business. It's not one size fit all. There's one piece of advice that worked really good for one company that would devastate another company. So you got to kind of cherry pick. Hey, that might work for me in my situation because I've got some extra capacity and I don't want to waste that extra capacity right now. Someone else that can put you in a bind if you don't have capacity. So you really have to look at fine tune these things down to the personal level of the company, personality of the company.
And I think on to add to that as well, I'm remembering what you said earlier about, these groups that people can attend. I think part of mindset is also the community you surround yourself with. So not only do you have the technical knowledge of growing and scaling, but it's like being surrounded by people who have the right mindset, who are positive, who, don't believe in the shoulder season and really just are just operating at a higher level. Could you speak to that and like the importance of, not just the technical knowledge, but I guess the community of people that you surround
Well, I
yourself
mean,
with as
you summed it up pretty well. I mean, it's again, this podcast, you know, in my opinion, sales itself is almost a lifestyle than a job. It's more of a lifestyle. It's just the way that you think. And I surround myself with that. I immerse myself in that. So again, a podcast like this, following people on either Facebook or Instagram or, you know, wherever they are, um, reading books, listening to Audible recordings. Blinkist is one of my favorite tools ever because, I've got ADHD at another level. And so trying to keep me into an entire book, good luck, unless I at least know what it is first. And what Blinkist does is it gives you kind of a cliff notes of audio, like chapter 1 in 1 minute, chapter 2 in 1 minute. And if you really think it's good, then you can get the book. But I surround myself with so much of that stuff that it becomes kind of gets in your blood. It becomes kind of automatic. It's in your subconscious, how you talk to people, how you present products to people, how you keep yourself motivated. I mean, sales, it pays well for a reason, right? It is a complete mind warp. And the vast majority of people that I've met cannot do it, certainly cannot do it at a high level. It's a rare gift. It's a combination of gift. It's also something you have to practice and learn and get better at. But if you don't have your mind straight, and it's one of the things that I recommend to sales reps every day is that you've got to practice every day, not just your selling routine and your processes, but your mindset stuff. Because if not, it'll eat you alive. I mean, sales, I've seen guys come in with a real great disposition, great personality, good looking, people like them. And 3 months later, they're miserable. So you have to stay. A lot of coaching and training is helping those team members stay productive and I don't know, be proud of what they do. Um, not let the negativity because people will tear you down. Uh, Consumers they've been so mistreated by bad salespeople so many times. They've been burned and sold things that, if anybody out there has a Kirby vacuum, you're, you're part of the problem. Um, they've been so mistreated by so many sales reps that they're angry. They don't want you to come to their house. They don't want you to spend 2 hours talking to them. They want you to give them a number on the phone. They don't want to go through any of it, but it's your job as a rep to earn that respect, provide and overcome that, and show them that there's a better way. You can actually be an asset and not someone that's there to grab their money. But when you're starting out in sales, especially when you're starting out, it's real easy to listen to people. And especially when you're not maybe as good at your craft as you could be. And then people It's not that they're necessarily mean, John. It's that people will lie to you.
Mm.
And no matter how honest you're being and genuine you're being, they'll lie to you about all kinds of things to basically get you to go away, to get you to stop. And it's just your human nature to get hurt by that. And that happens enough times, especially when you're new, you take it to heart and it really can knock you out of the business, even though I'm a firm believer that sales is a path for so many people. For so many people, it's a tremendous path to financial freedom and eventually, to starting your own business. But most folks, those first, you must get thrown off the tracks because of that, because of the negativity, because of the no's, the dejection. It's like asking a girl out, on a date and being, laughed at. It hurts. It really does. And in those first few months, it's hard to pull people through that. It takes a lot of encouragement. And it's all up there.
All up there.
Yeah.
Man, take it personally almost sounds like it's like if they didn't reject my pitch, they rejected me as an
That's
individual.
how it feels. That's 100%
Yeah.
how it feels. And
Yeah.
especially when you feel that it's going really well and you
Yeah.
get to the end and then it goes sideways all of a sudden. And then you're in the car, talking to yourself out loud down the freeway like a maniac. You go, what just now? I don't understand. Why did Bill do that to me? And it's, well, it just takes time to get over that. But really what happens is you learn to fix your mind, not on the outcome, but on how well you do your job. And
Mm.
if you get really good at your craft as a salesperson, when you leave a house and you say, you know what, I did my job. I did everything I could. I used all of my tools. I was a good listener. I was patient. I dug deep. I tried genuinely in my heart, tried to help them. I wasn't out, I didn't have, they call it commission breath. I wasn't trying to chase down money. I was really trying to help them. And you walk away, you feel like you really did a good job, then you can hold your head up. You get to the point where you don't feel bad anymore. You don't feel hurt. You feel like it's unfortunate I couldn't help these people. Let's move on to the next family that I can help. And you can get to that point and it makes the job fun. That you don't have to worry so much about the money. You can really fixate on their problems and solving them, but also, hey, pet the dog. Let them show you around their garden that they're proud of. I've had people take me for a ride in their freaking DeLorean. You can really bond with people. You get invited to barbecues and things. You can really, it's a human connection. It's real, especially if you're trying to do the right thing for the customer. They can feel that. And so I think the thrill of it for me was if you get to the point that you're comfortable and you don't really care if you sell or not, you just want to meet people and discover new things. Somebody has a stamp collection, somebody has a gun collection. Every day it makes the job fascinating. And you're excited about who you're going to get to meet, what you're going to learn, maybe what town you're going to be in, where you're going to have lunch. It really becomes a rewarding profession if you can get past those first few brutal months, I guess.
That's a
What I think,
beautiful
that's the
reframe.
job of a sales manager. Sales manager is not to cherry pick, um, you know, prima donna guru salespeople that promise the world. The job of a sales manager is to find good quality people with good attitudes and groom them to be successful in this business and in life. That's what the job really is. And that's the most rewarding thing I get from it is seeing individuals and companies get to the point they're financially successful enough that they can relax. It's not about boats and fancy cars, helicopters. It's about knowing that you and your family are safe and that if this next sale doesn't happen, everything's fine.
Yeah.
And then you can really enjoy the job and the lifestyle.
I love that.
And we've talked about building companies up, but if you take it down to the individual level, especially in HVAC, HVAC is notorious for this, but it's true in windows and roofing and all that. A lot of smaller companies, that the way that they just haven't really received any training. They got thrown into sales because, hey, you're handsome or you're pretty. and you speak well, and here you go. Here's the keys to the kingdom. Go sell. And they're never really given the proper amount of investment, the proper amount of training to be truly successful. And what I've seen is guys they're good at HVAC, they're likable, you know, I'd hang out with them, but using processes and techniques, they can double their money. That's not far fetched for a guy that makes $100,000 a year to make 200 or 250. That's up to them. Hopefully they have, a manager that's going to help lead them down that path and encourage them down that path. I've worked with salespeople before that without the company invest their own money in going to seminars and going to events in, like, say, Vegas to get hyped up, invest in books, invest in audio. I've known salespeople that invest in their own personal coaches because it's very similar to having your own company to be a salesperson. You can control your own destiny. And if you put the effort and work in, smart work in on a regular basis, there's a reason why one guy in the office makes double what the other guy does. But they're all capable of it. It's not because, again, that person's so charming, probably because that person has a system and they're probably consistent. And that's what process does for you, that consistency of, I can go into a home. It's discipline though. It's not fun. It's not as fun. It's much more fun to wing it and just have a good time, meet people. But if you can stay on track through some order of, 5, 10, 15, whatever step, you can isolate these things that you're doing in the home. Then as you mature as a salesperson, after each opportunity, you can look back and zero in on what you need to improve. And so you improve this part, and then you improve that part, and then you improve this part week after week. You focus on these individual little pieces of this consistent process. And next thing you know, that whole process is at a higher level. And that's when the magic really kind of happens for a salesperson. They see that happen and realize it's real, and they dedicate themselves to that discipline and consistency that I've seen guys that make 100 go to make 300 or 350. And that's life-changing money. These days, it's not greedy money. It's life-changing. It's enough to buy a home. It's not easy anymore. To have money for your college, your kids' college retirement. So it's also impossible for most people. So it's all within reach. It just takes that relentless training every day. Yeah.
Love it, Michael.
Yeah.
Awesome stuff. One thing I will, so one of my good friends, Chris, he said this, we want education, not entertainment. So I want to talk action steps. So that's the difference, right? Entertainment, we just watch it and then people go home and they're like, that was great. That was a great episode with Michael. But like, if someone want to turn into education and real life results, like what would you say? I don't know. Number one, what's their next step? Like, what's one thing that they can do in their business, or something to think about, or, what action step would that be to move what you said into reality for their business?
For a business owner, again, you need a foundation. You've got to get on board with one of those. You don't have to reinvent the wheel and figure this out for yourself. Immerse yourself in the selling side of things. I understand a lot of owners that come from the technical world. You have to get your mind straight that sales is noble. It's good, and it can be done ethically. And you need to learn more about finding and selling to customers. You've got to have so much opportunity that it takes the stress away. There's enough customers. There's enough money. I can afford to do things the right way, and then really build training systems. And, I've been inspired by so many companies. Again, I like to defer back to Tailor because they make such an impact. They built an entire training school for technicians and installers and for plumbers and for electricians. I think it's called Total Tech. It's out of Nashville, but they're pulling people out of the military, and giving them lifelong careers, but they couldn't have ever done any of that if they didn't have the revenue to invest in it. So at some level, just to get the needle to move, you've got to get some extra revenue, do some selling, and then invest that into systems and processes to be able to scale. That was a little off the cuff, but that's about it.
Love it. Yeah, it's
I feel like I could have had some more notes before jumping on this call.
hey, we take it impromptu.
Yeah, that's just
Love it.
it's really about, one thing. It's hard for some people to hear this because I've been down the path myself. Again, whether you're a roofing company, Windows company, HVAC company, you have to change your mindset from being an HVAC company, being a sales and marketing organization.
Mm,
Literally everything that happens in that business on every level, in the service department, in the office, CSRs, installers, every single thing that every person in the company does must point back to sales. It needs to be considered in how every little thing impacts marketing and selling and branding. And there's just hundreds of pieces there. But if you start thinking like a sales and marketing organization, instead of, I sell boxes, then that will come. The first step, I think, in scaling is going from I'm an HVAC contractor, I'm a sales and marketing organization. And then the next leap to go to, go anywhere near where someone like Jimmy is you have to become a training organization
wow.
that lifts people. And that's the only way to go from 1 to 10 million. Yeah. Become a sales marketing company. You go to 20 or 50 or 100 million, you absolutely must become a training organization.
I love that. That'll be a good soundbite right there. That's amazing. Well, Michael, this is a
You're too kind, John. I feel like I've, probably missaid everything I've said today.
no, no, definitely
Could
not.
probably, polish the thing for about 1,000 more tries, but I do really appreciate coming on.
There's Michael, and yeah, we're kind of around the hour. So, yeah, any final words before we wrap up for the day?
Oh gosh, I don't have anything profound like that, man. It's really just companies need to understand that they don't need to figure it out on their own. You know, if you've got a good technical mind and you've got a good family business, you have a reputation for doing quality work, you take care of people, you don't have to go out there and figure out sales and marketing from scratch. You just don't. There's enough people out there, me, other coaches, organizations that will help you do that. And I know that from my own mistakes. I've made, my goodness, John, I've made a lot of mistakes in business. And luckily I've learned from a few of them. And myself, I'm good at a lot of things. I'm good at many things, but there's very, very few things I'm great at. And that's where I focus my energy. I'm good at the marketing and selling side. I'm good at coaching and training people. I love it. I enjoy it. And I'm good at it. I'm not good the, at the bookkeeping. I'm not good at inventory control. I'm not good at accounting or installation or technical matters. That's just not my forte. Then the reverse is true. A company that your technical ability is outstanding, that's great. Be proud of that. You don't have to be the salesperson. You just need to find that person, partner with that person. You don't have to do it yourself. I know because I've done it myself. My first business, I walked into it thinking just, hey, I do good work. I like people. I'm nice. I'm going to make money. And then, I got kicked in the face for about 3 years, John. And those first 3 years I was getting kicked in the face, this is back in my late 20s. Those first few years I was getting my, butt handed to me. I figured out some basic business principles through desperation. I put myself and my family through a lot of grief trying to figure things out, wasting a lot of money on this, on marketing or selling and how to find customers. It was trial by fire, and it did a lot of damage. And I would just say to companies that are starting out, maybe a year or two in or three, you don't have to go through that fire. There's enough people out there and shows like this that will help you navigate.
Love that. Yeah, we're not reinventing the wheel here, people. Like this has been done. It's been accomplished. It's just connecting the right people. Then the thread of the show is processes, as you've said, Michael. So
Yeah.
get those properly installed.
Yes, sir.
Uh, cool. Well, Michael, thank you so much. Like, this was an incredible episode. For anyone who's listening or is watching me on video, I have tons of notes on this other screen right here. I'm learning and my brain's expanding. Hope everyone's taking notes as well.
Well, I
Lots of
hope that
great.
somebody walked away with something. That's the most I can hope for. But again, thank you so much for the opportunity. A big fan, and I'll be other than this episode, I'll be listening in the future.
Michael, thank you so much. I
All
appreciate
right,
it.
man.
And
Take
take care,
Thanks
everyone.
again. I appreciate it. Thanks,
All
John.
right, bye, everyone.
Thank you for joining us for the HVAC Financial Freedom Podcast. Follow us on StreamYard, Apple Podcast, Spotify, Amazon Music, and check out our main website, www.hvacfinancialfreedom.com, to find out how you can also achieve financial freedom.